Good morning, video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games, hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Daslow, and joining me, as always,
Ben Vanel here. Good morning, listeners. We always say good morning to the games, but rarely do we say good morning to our audience.
True.
Our
That's
beautiful
true.
audience.
My name's Adam Knox, and I'm grateful for video games existing and more grateful for listeners existing.
Yes.
It is great, and welcome.
We need both to do this.
Absolutely.
Welcome. Well, there are some weeks where, we got to make do without the games.
And sometimes no listeners.
That episode we put out that literally 0 people listened to, that was weird.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed doing it, and the games were fun.
I'm sure we put it out right, too.
I thought it was a good ep.
Yeah.
But 0 listeners that week,
0
and then back to the
downloads.
regular numbers the week after?
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Back to 1 million the next week. Yeah, it was very strange.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah. We do appreciate
the
it.
wind
Thank you
beneath
for
our
the
wings.
music.
And hey, if you want to get in touch with us and force us to address a comment or question, why, there is a way that you can do so. We have added to our Patreon a listener mailbag bonus thingy. So on the $5 tier, which, hey, it's a reasonable little tier, you get access to our Discord where we are active in there. We're talking movies, we're talking games, we're talking a bunch of shit.
Yep.
You also get access to a little episode once a month called Filthy Casuals Listener Mailbag?
Something
Well,
like
let's
that.
not let's not sign off on that as the official title.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
mind
pretty
getting
misleading, isn't it?
we might get creative with it. You also get ad-free episodes of this podcast every single week from now on. So
Yes.
if you want that, that's also on that $5. And on the $10 tier, we've also added that we're doing those premium episodes monthly now, sort
Yeah.
of like a different format. We're going to be doing like a round robin of each of us talking about an interesting subject to us.
That's right.
To
Yeah.
the other two, bunch of stuff over there. We got more things we want to do as well, but that's what's there right now.
Oh, we're now spooking just our entire
Well,
future life plans.
Yeah.
I want to be open and transparent, which is I might have ideas one day.
Yep.
And I already have some now, but like the you also get Nintendo 69, which is the podcast that is about it's this but for pop culture, and that's the one that morphs into the mailbag once a month.
Yes.
Yep.
They're all on. Go have a look. Patreon.com/filthycasualspod is where it all is, and we thank everyone who's over there so much.
Yes.
And everyone who wants to go over there. It lets us do this.
Absolutely.
It does.
And it's going to be fun to have a once a month thing where we can kind of go into people's thoughts on the games we've talked about, the movies we've talked about on the bonus episode, just anything they want to ask us about. I do want to just clarify, Ben, you made it sound like we are under an obligation to read out literally every single piece of correspondence we've got. I don't really want to put that. I don't want that to be a thing where people are like, the person who just knows like one fact where they're like, if you're a cop, you have to tell me. Like, if I write into the Patreon, you have to read it out. You have to read out
Tell me your
everything I
credit
say.
card number. That was my question. You've got to answer it. You said you would.
Yeah. Well, the answer could be no. I'm not going to give you my credit card number.
I wouldn't
yeah.
have thought of that.
Yeah.
See, I'd have just done it. I'd have that. But
You're better at improv than us.
That's right.
No, but.
maybe. That's how I do it.
But I think we've already got a bunch of questions for the episode we'll do at the end of this month.
Yep.
Which is fantastic. A lot of them are very sort of broad and general, but they, like you say, they can be specifically about games we've played in the past month, movies we've seen in the past month that you want to add your thoughts to.
Yeah, we want to do a bit of an expand and recap sort of
Yeah.
thing as well, because like there's often things that we come to at different times.
Yes.
And then one of us has to eat the biscuit, whoever came to it last.
Oh, boy.
But the idea is that just to have a bunch of stuff over there that makes it feel good to be there, because it's it means the world to us that you want to support us through Patreon.
Yeah.
Hey, it feels good to us.
Patreon.com/filthycasualspod.
It feels good to us because we're getting money. But we
Yes.
want to try and replicate that feeling for you, the listener.
Yeah.
We want to, if anything, double your investment. We've started a pyramid scheme tier.
Yeah.
Where it's
Engagement is priceless.
It's the absolute best. And
I've already seen also like people engaging with other people's questions. So
Right.
Like there is a bit of community being fostered there.
So by the end of the month, we won't need to weigh in at all.
we're off the hook.
We just read the whole thing, including the other people's answers. It'll be great.
Are
So
you
again,
guys?
if you like the podcast, it's the best way to
Yes.
support us.
It's the best way to ensure it continues to exist.
And
Patreon.
hey, if you're thinking like, oh, I want to support the boys, but I don't I don't really want to listen to all this extra stuff a month. That's also fine.
You get it
You're more
anyway.
than welcome to put the money in and then just never engage with any of it.
That's
you
true.
also get the whole back catalogue of everything
Yes.
we put up there too. And
It's hundreds of episodes of Nintendo 69, the book club, the Bandcamp episodes that we used to do.
the ad-free apps, the whole shebang.
That's right.
The whole
By
schmozzle.
Ricky Martin.
Do you guys ever Broad City heads?
I love Broad City.
Great show.
Yeah.
I've seen a few episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm in between, I guess.
Lauren's been rewatching it.
A Broad City neck or something. Not quite a head.
Yeah.
Lauren's been rewatching it, and she was watching the one the other night where one of them has hooked up with this guy, and then she goes to his improv show. It's kind of a classic episode. And she's just watching, like, I think he gives really good head, and then she's watching him. He's shit in the improv show. He's doing, like, Dr. Evil impressions and stuff, and it's just, like, so embarrassing. And I was watching it thinking, if they made this show now, this would be a live podcast. It wouldn't be an improv show.
I thought you were going to say you were watching this going, this is me.
This guy rules.
Dr. Evil impressions and
Yeah.
good head. I'm
Why-
halfway there.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, this is anything that's like, anytime comedy is mentioned, even with that show is a comedy.
Yeah.
Those girls got their start in
Yeah.
improv
Exactly,
shows.
that's what I
And
was
even
saying,
they're
yeah.
shitting on it.
Oh, everyone who's in comedy does about comedy themselves. No
Yeah.
one hates it more.
Yeah.
But good show.
But I was like, the improv troupe of like that they were making fun of back then, if they made this show now, there'd be a whole episode about like, oh, he's a podcaster.
Yeah.
Why don't we start a podcast about how good at head we are? To call it what would you call it? The lick, something like that.
Nintendo 69?
Spell the whole alphabet. The worst advice.
Yeah.
Don't do the whole. Just do X again and again.
Yeah.
Don't do the whole alphabet.
Yeah.
Or I,
Yeah, or I.
a capital I.
Or T, capital T.
I guess you could do a T.
Yeah.
Or a W. I guess it's a good piece of
Yeah. Most of the letters do apply.
yeah. But what's
I'm such a weeb, I spell out the whole kanji alphabet down there. And that's a good one too. You get a lot of long strokes, a lot of
that's
like
true.
whips.
But
Yeah.
if it's a language you're learning, you're having a halfway through go, oh, what's next?
Fire up Duolingo.
Yeah.
Je
A week
t'aime.
later, the owl's like, you haven't been giving a lot of head lately.
Making grammatical errors, and they're like, sorry, that's too distracting. You've done that wrong. It's actually the past participle is what
Yeah.
you meant to spell out.
Do
just
some
then.
hieroglyphics on that clit. Hang on, I'm just trying to draw a little man walking towards the left.
Well, speaking of
If they made what I would have loved to see back in
Yeah.
the day is an episode of Abby and Alana sitting down and playing a bit of Crazy Taxi.
short while, I was going to say, speaking of multiplayer games,
Yeah.
you know what I wouldn't have expected to be in production at all, especially as what they are now describing as an open world. I mean, I guess Crazy Taxi was always open world, but a massively multiplayer is what I've seen people say, and I think is possibly in part of their copy that Sega is like updated on a website somewhere.
So
or
they
other.
did this announcement. It was maybe like E3 last year or something. They had that video that was just an announcement that like we're working on new versions of Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Shinobi Golden Axe.
The Game Awards, maybe something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, it might be
yeah.
that. Yeah, but it was like there was no footage of any of them. Or maybe there was. Anyway, basically
There was
the big
little
announcement
bits.
was like these old, these classic games. Crazy Taxi was one of the ones that there was like no actual footage of it.
There
but
was a
just,
little
like-
bit, I think.
Oh, was there really?
I think
okay.
there was a little bit maybe behind the car, but I might be getting it confused with Jet Set Radio, which there was definitely some.
Right.
There was
Right.
tiny little skerricks of.
Yes.
But they are working on, new versions of these kind of beloved IPs that they have that have been sort of sitting around gathering dust for quite some time.
Well, and are also long dormant because of like they weren't that popular in their most recent iterations,
Right.
too.
Yeah, they
which is
made a
the
couple that were
interesting-
a bit shitty, but yeah, like I think Crazy Taxi was maybe the one that people were most excited.
Jet Set
for.
Radio, I think,
Yeah.
as well, but like kind of all of them in a similar way of like, wow, they're bringing these things back that I thought were gone.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
Crazy
yeah.
Taxi was
Which is a fresh new experience for someone who likes video games.
Yeah.
A company leveraging their nostalgia play
Yeah.
like this. Whoa, what a move.
Yeah.
Well, I loved Crazy Taxi, but it was definitely a bit of a different era where the home releases were arcade games first, and then the home releases were essentially just the arcade machine ported over.
Some stuff added in, like they had their crazy pyramid or whatever.
Yeah.
For like some home version, but the meat of it was what you would consider now to be quite a meatless
exactly
game of this
Right.
arcade
fun, but
thing.
for a home experience, definitely like Yeah, made for a in 5-minute installments kind of game.
A 5-minute loop
Yeah,
situation.
so what was exciting to me about them announcing that was they're just making this direct for a home audience. Maybe it'll be the more fleshed out version of Crazy Taxi that it seemed always seemed like would have been cool and could be really fun. And yeah, I don't know, this seems weird.
It's an interesting decision, and you can see the thinking, I suppose, in if you're going to start from the ground floor again and go, well, what's the core of this game? Driving around fast in a big open world to try and do these sort of arcadey things. I can sort of see the jump there to, well, if we want to make multiplayer. No, I can't. The more I say this, the more I'm realizing this taxi's going somewhere completely different to where I'd set it.
Yeah, conceptually,
I can
though,
see on the map the way you should be going.
Yeah, can just take a left here. Oh, okay.
Never mind.
What was because there was a rash of multiplayer racing games in the early mid 2000s, right?
And the
Midnight
the
Club?
2010s and stuff. There was all your
Project Gotham. Was that one of those?
They weren't multiplayer. Well, they had multiplayer in them, but they weren't a similar. This is more sounding like The Crew or what Forza Horizon and stuff does. And
because conceptually, you can see how this ballooned out. It makes sense if you think about this game where you're driving around as a taxi driver, picking up people in this environment and thinking well, how do you make that feel more alive? We'll have other taxis driving around.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So you've got a whole
competing
bustling
for
city
fares.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it does
like the real world.
Yeah, it does lend itself to that.
When I undercut this game with Crazy Uber, and then jack up my prices after I've destroyed the industry.
Stop
I can't
giving
tell
out
you-
mints and water.
That's my plan.
The number of times I've hailed a cab and it's about to stop, and then another cab comes careening around the corner and just smashes it out of the way and stops just perfectly in the little green circle that kind of follows me wherever I stand.
Yes.
And you're like, take me to the KFC.
That's just around the corner.
Yeah.
Take me to the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. And do a jump along the way.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
And if this takes even 1 second more than what I have budgeted in my head, I'm getting out.
I like, I suppose, that it seems as though they're making a new game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Modern game, it could go you start hearing multiplayer, massively multiplayer, especially these days. It rings the live service game warning bells.
It also rings the dated bell because nothing is called massively multiplayer anymore.
I suppose so.
It is just live service, on you don't call Fortnite a massively multiplayer online game.
That's true. The I guess World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy and stuff are it's a very specific type of thing. But I think it is used that term in one part of the copy on a website, but there was also an interview with the developers where they're just talking more broadly about it being multiplayer as one of the aspects of it. Mm-hmm. So it's obviously further away than the full description from them of what it actually is.
Yeah,
Even
we're not
if
in
this
preview
weren't
mode yet.
A concept that could go either way. Also, Sega is such a busted company that it's kind of even without hearing this, you'd be are they going to butcher this? Are they going to do a good job of it? I don't know.
Because I really liked Crazy Taxi at the time too, and definitely also think that it is of a different era in a way that you couldn't replicate by just putting out a new version of the same thing. Yeah. And even by the time they got to 3, which was on the Xbox, maybe was an arcade game too, but that was already in 2002 or something at the point where people were like, nah, this feels old.
I can't imagine it with current graphics.
Yeah.
I just cannot picture it.
But if they keep that sort of... It is similar to Jet Set Radio in that so much of it is about the vibe and the tone, and it had this great soundtrack and the characters were all very larger than life. If you find a way to kind of update that and transport that without it just being a upscale, if they if they commission a new soundtrack that's of that similar vibe and get a bit of that stuff going, I think that's the key.
Yeah. And they've said it's one big city based off of, I think, the American West Coast.
Oh, yeah.
I think is what they said. I guess if I had to have guessed at the design when they just announced it, I I would have guessed multiple cities. I would have guessed more sort of single player structure, like some things to earn by doing certain whatevers, and it's all like getting different costumes for your taxi driver and whatever.
Sure.
Which there probably still will be other than
paint
multiple
jobs for the
cities
car
thing.
and all that kind of stuff.
Whether or not this is something they're going to position as a live service game will dictate some of my interest towards it, but it being multiplayer in the style of something like Forza Horizon, where it's sort of there as well.
Yes.
Versus it being...
And it's like built in like time trials and like mini challenges that you just have, you know, like live leaderboards and stuff. Like that will be cool.
If I have the option to just sort of ignore it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Forza's a good reference point because a lot of that is just like meet this person here and drive them from A to B.
You're seeing someone else hooning around as a
true.
little ghost or whatever. So
And that's all set in like they're all just in one spot, but the spot is big enough and varied enough that like
that's the sort of reference point that I'm hoping this indicates.
Yeah.
That they're using.
I mean that's the thing to put in the copy.
Indicates, huh? I know cars.
That's
I
the
wonder
thing.
what engine they're using.
RE4 engine. That's the that's the thing to. I mean,
Rev
that's the
engine.
thing to put in the copy.
Rev, the 4 is a B.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That's the thing to say in the copy. We're ripping off Forza Horizon.
Yeah.
Just say that, and then that's going to make people go, "Oh, okay, cool, I get
But
it."
that, like putting in like West Coast, it's like, okay, so that's like LA, great. But then it's, you know, desert, beach, forest.
And
Like
maybe
there's
it's up
mountains.
to San Francisco, sort of different city areas. They're
Driving over a big bridge.
I could only dream of such a thing. Picking people up from the bridge or having to drop someone off at the bridge and be like, hey, listen, everything's going to be okay. Don't maybe I'll drop you off somewhere else. Yeah.
Which is funny because then you are just kind of talking GTA Online.
Yes.
But with this like specific focus type of game that also has hopefully this aesthetic that is a lot of fun.
Yes.
So it's an interesting direction and does it's surprising, I suppose, in a way where they're doing something fresh with it rather than having the point of it be here's this throwback sort of like, and they're saying it's like a big budget like
AAA. That was
game.
the other thing. Yes.
Can I make
I'd
a
also
prediction?
assumed that it wouldn't be on that scale.
Yeah.
I got a prediction.
Okay.
Pre-order bonus. Downloadable character. Ichiban.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because you can play Crazy Taxi in Like a Dragon.
Yes.
I've got a second prediction.
He's in the Sega family.
He is.
Crazy Taxi Season Pass Year 1. Ichiban as a driver. Now, I think that's probably more likely.
Sega love to put all their shit in all their other shit. Like there's a Crazy Taxi. You can get one of the Crazy Taxi guys in the new Super Monkey Ball that just came out.
Sonic has a car from the
Yes.
Sega Superstars Racing.
Yeah,
Yes.
Sonic will be
Team
in there
Racing.
for sure.
Yep.
There'll be
That's-
heaps of Sonic shit in this.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see what sort of music they end up having in there.
I wonder
Yeah.
if that's the one thing that is a throwback. Because, like,
You'd want some Offspring and stuff in there.
exactly.
surely.
I don't necessarily, unless it is like a genuine, like, you know, all-star platinum sort of roster of artists. If they're aiming this at us, millennials, then I would lean into the back catalogue of your Offsprings and your Blink-182s.
You're calling up the Offspring and you're getting them to make a couple of new songs.
Yeah.
As the
for it.
generation of people largely responsible for destroying the taxi and other industries.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like them to angle this taxi game toward. But yeah, Offspring. I could see that being like a radio station.
Yeah.
And then the other ones again similar to Horizon. You've got your more
True.
modern music on different.
That's true. Yeah, you can do your
stations.
retro. You can do your golden oldies for
That's
us
a pre-order
millennials.
bonus.
Yeah.
The classic soundtrack
Yeah.
radio channel.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to pay for that. They're squeezing the dollar out of the silverback millennials because we've got the disposable income.
Well, I
the
mean,
20-year-olds that are coming to this because it's Fortnite with a car.
Yeah.
They're not spending the money on hearing those old Offspring songs.
No, but if you made a character from
Fortnite.
Euphoria,
Fortnite. Would be
Fortnite.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you made Zendaya one of the characters,
Yeah.
then the Zoomers would be on board.
Yep.
Yeah, you're
Yep.
driving along Arrakis,
yeah.
the place that young people and 70-year-old people love.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
They should have made it they should have made it crazy rideshare though, because like just add a bunch of service charges, let that creep up. Everyone's used to that.
I'm sure there's a bit of that going on. There's an app and stuff that you're interacting with as part of your
or is there some kind of overarching story where it's like
they're the bad guys?
They're Uber are the bad guys. Yeah. So it's like, hey, we're the last band of outlaws.
Yeah.
We're the only 5 taxi drivers left in existence, and we have to band together to take down Stupa or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Stupa. That's a film. That's already a thing.
While you're driving people from place to place as well, if you can just run off the road one of these, Yaris's that's being paid off over the next 45 years.
Oh, downloadable character or one of the character options. Army fatigues jacket, mohawk. It's Travis Bickle.
Oh, yes.
And he's leading the charge. Because he's a hero in Taxi Driver.
Okay, this is the whole ep now. Just us us workshopping what this game should be. Yeah. We're really in the zone here.
It definitely took me by surprise. Them describing it as this.
A fully fledged, fleshed out, AAA experience, which I'm sure they hope to make ongoing money from.
Yeah, that's the one thing, right? And so it makes me interested to see as well the other ones. Not that I have that much in the nostalgia tank for like Golden Axe or Shinobi, but Jet Set Radio I certainly do. And if they're approaching all of them with a similar mindset of this is a big budget, big game, I wonder what they all look like.
Because Golden Axe would be what? Just like a third-person medieval action sort of situation.
You'd imagine if you were just cranking it out that it would be like...
Or a Skyrim or something.
Like God of War style combat, but a beat-em-up game. Or like one of those Streets of Rage 4 type throwback beat-em-ups. Or don't know. I don't know how much we've seen. I lose track of how much we've seen of each. Definitely Jet Set Radio, we had some images or footage of that people were wondering whether it was actually a remake or what. I don't know how much they've revealed about the rest of the roster.
I think they've said very, very little. I remember that video being like annoyingly tantalizing of like, because it was like people, they're in their house and they're playing on a TV and then all the power goes out. And so it was like quite sort of like high production value. And then all it was just, hey, we're working on these and they'll be out in 4 years. It was like, I mean, cool, but...
And they've said from the start that they were separate games, but it gave more of a feeling of like, we're putting this package together.
Right.
Like the smaller scale throwback games is how it immediately seemed. So it's
Can
interesting
you get... I was wondering this morning. I'm pretty sure Crazy Taxi is on like iOS and probably Steam. But can you get it on...
Probably.
Can you get... I don't think it's on... I don't think there's any version of it that's been chucked on Switch or any of the like current gen stuff.
Not sure. Like maybe 3 is a backwards compatible one on the Xbox Series is or whatever. But I'm not sure
it's
where each one is.
It's relatively easy to find the old one. Certainly, I know they're on the iOS. You can have a little good phone game.
Yeah.
Jet Set Radio 1 you can get on Steam and stuff, but not Future, which I really liked Future. I don't love it now that I'm living in it.
No.
But at the time, it seemed so bright.
I never played it, but it's like that Bomb Funk MC's game, right?
I know what you mean. The answer to your actual question is no. The answer to the question you meant, which was Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Yeah. Well, that was doing Jet Set Radio.
But,
kind of.
I mean, his actual question, is it like Bomb Funk MC's? It also sort of is.
I did say Bomb Funk MC's game.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't exist.
If
so
there had
it's not
been
like that.
a PS1 Bomb Funk MC's game...
Which it exists in my head.
Right.
Well, then maybe.
When you would get the Bomb Funk MC's...
Where is your head at to think of that?
When you'd get the Bomb Funk MC's cartridge and put that in and then get the Jason Nevins cartridge and plug that into the top... So you could play as Jason Nevins in the Bomb Funk MC's game.
We've careened out of my knowledge road.
Really?
Now.
Although we're back
Don't
into...
know Jason Nevins.
We're back... So I never played Crazy Taxi at the time. Yeah. But at the time I was listening to Bomb Funk MC's cross Jason Nevins.
Jason Nevins.
Yeah.
Who, to be clear, were not in that game. We're talking Offspring.
I don't know
but
why.
They were in the Bomb Funk MC's game.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
All right. Well...
Yeah is what... You can also say to people now if they ask if there's going to be a remaster of Dead Rising soon.
Yeah, there was a little Capcom presentation.
There was not a ton of other stuff in there. They well, maybe this is worth talking about first. They casually mentioned in it that they're working on a new Resident Evil game. At the end, they were like,
I had no idea they would work on another Resident Evil game.
There's been so few of them.
I know.
They're doing like what will end up being a 9 or something. It's the director of 7 is working on the next one.
Yeah, which is interesting because 7 was great, but it was also weird, and it felt like 8 was like a return to Resident Evil classic styles almost, while still being first person.
And
it's
then
like
4 is obviously, and the 2 and 3 remakes are their own sort of. Well, 4 was much more like 4, which 2 and 3 were more like old 4.
Yeah,
and there's all these different splintered branching paths of Resident Evil now.
But I guess 7 is like the extremely original take on the franchise,
but people hated 5 and 6, so 7 was the real course correction.
Right.
Back to just like creepy one setting, and then bit at the end that is sort of tonally so different to the rest of the game, and not nearly as enjoyable.
A big vibe similarity to like 1.
Yeah.
In 7.
Oh yeah.
And then gameplay something completely different.
Yep.
And
then the new character, Ethan Winters.
Winters.
Yep.
And then you're right. Like 8. Sort of a different thing from 7 that had some similarities to like the remakes of 2 and 3. It's an odd series in some ways.
But 7 and 8, the big course correction, people are were mostly into both of those games.
I think we're a little maybe more lukewarm on 8. I liked 8.
I liked 8.
I think
liked 8.
The sort of after the fact dust has settled tone is
a
little less into 8.
I'd be more likely to go back in on 7 perhaps than I would 8 and just check out once I leave the little house.
I'm very interested to see what another one will be, if they go in another new direction, if it's like 7 and 8 and the first person stuff, if they go into, well, now we're doing a 4 style thing but a new one.
I can't remember
they said
if this was
is the end of the Ethan Winters saga, right?
Yeah. Because the DLC...
About the new one.
I feel like they said that at the end of 8.
They did. They said this is the end of
that little block of it's done.
The father's story or whatever. And then there was the DLC for his daughter, which I didn't play, but I got the impression that like, and that's just that. I think that's self-contained.
I heard that was not very good.
I think furthers and wraps up that story too, possibly. And that one was third person. The DLC was.
Right.
I also never got around to playing that. So
I don't know if this was a rumor or a report that Leon and Claire?
Oh, yeah. Jill?
Jill. Thank you.
Jill from 3?
Maybe the characters who are returning in 9.
I also feel like I saw that.
Yeah.
It's an all over the shop type of
it's definitely
series, but I'm consistently into the weird stuff they do.
Yes.
I've enjoyed everything Resident Evil that I've played for quite some time.
I kind of feel like I've never played 5 and 6, but universal consensus is not very good.
I wasn't into 5, never played 6, but 5 just felt like a pretty...
5 I don't think they can remake.
It was
without
more joyless...
completely rewriting the whole story.
Is that Punching the Boulder in 5?
Punching the Boulder was in 5. It was just that the game itself felt like 4, where they'd sucked a bit of the creativity of 4 out.
Right.
And like Gears of War and stuff had gotten big in between, and it felt a bit more along those sorts of lines to me at the time.
Because they had that dude, the soldier guy, as like one of the protagonists.
It was Chris Redfield.
Yeah.
But like, and it was sort of built around being made to be co-op the whole time.
Yeah. And it's also, story-wise, it's a little dodgy. It's like in Africa, and there's a bunch of stuff where like if you were to remake it now, you would have to really rethink a lot of it, I think.
At the time, I think as well, even what people's response to it was a bit like, this is a little weird and off feeling.
Right, okay.
Yeah. But I kind of feel like...
The rumor is that they are remaking 5 though.
Right.
And some other stuff. I don't. Who knows? They're probably doing everything they can in every direction all of the time.
Yeah. I feel like now that they've course corrected a bit and 7 and 8 were well received, I think they're probably due to have a bit of a swerve where they do something where they have like... Because 6 is like all these different characters, I think. So it really feels like, if they bring back all these other people, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they really are due to potentially botch it. Like they're pretty bad with that series, I think, with just kind of like staying on course. And sometimes that works out. Like 4, they took a big swing back in the day originally, and that really paid off for them.
Yeah.
And then 5, they probably could have just done 4 part 2 and people would have loved it, but they took another big swerve and it didn't pay off.
The remake of 2 was kind of that as well, as they'd done the remake of 1 that was just an updated in that style, and then 2 they went in a different direction gameplay wise, more
new
like
game
4
basically,
and then 3 was again people going like, this is like this is similar to 2 and very short and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because I feel like if you like the series, most people when they talk about like the hallmarks of the series would single out the same things. But then those hallmarks are kind of across the 8 of them in very few of them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like zombies aren't necessarily as zombies in all of them.
Yeah.
From 4 onwards, they're not zombies.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's all still the Umbrella Corporation and T and G and whatever
Right.
virus.
But then
and
even
you spell out the whole alphabet with virus after it.
Yeah.
Like 7 and 8, the Umbrella in the background, but I don't even like they're named once or twice and in like documents.
There's like some other company that used some of their stuff, and I don't remember because then the story is all over the shop, and even these characters sort of change.
And
over
the best
time.
bits about like even 2 are like, you know, the fans of that game would say being in this one environment, the like dense kind of puzzle solving of unlocking all these different rooms. But even within that game, that's like half of it. And then there's just a bit at the end where you're just in the sewers with a bazooka.
Yes.
And then 5 and 6 are a lot more action, but then 7 went back, but then 8 is more action again. And it's going to be
the end
interesting
of 8 was
whatever
just
they
fucking
do.
insane. Like it was fun, but again, you just are like, I kind of feel like I should be loading up a different game to have this experience. I'm like kind of nestled into my little groove of finding a key in a trough and being like, oh, I can get into that barn over there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I've got a flamethrower and a guy's fucking riding a mech around in the forest. And
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They're weird games, so I'm interested to see what... I'm glad that they feel as though they have the creative freedom to not be beholden to one type of thing and to experiment a bit. It's fun.
Much like Umbrella Corporation itself.
Oh, shit.
they were the real umbrella all along.
They're going to fuck it all up. They're going to nuke Raccoon City.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of zombies, the other thing that they spent a lot more time on during this Capcom thing, amongst a couple of other things that I don't even really remember, they weren't that interesting to me, but they're doing a remaster. They're calling it a deluxe remaster, I think, of Dead Rising 1 from 2006. Like very early 360 game that is a weird game.
Is this the one where you're running around a shopping center with like a golf club hitting zombies?
You got it.
All right. Never played it.
It was so I played it years after the fact. So at the time it was very impressive because of like the number of zombies that were on screen and like the fidelity of it and everything. It felt very like, well, we're in a new generation here in 2006, and to remaster it now, the impact of a lot of its notable things of the time in a technical sense obviously won't be there now. We've seen lots of things do big hordes of zombies and whatever. The footage they showed of this also made it look a bit weird, where like it felt very physical, the first one, where you were bumping into stuff, and when you whacked someone with a lawnmower or any of the silly things, everyone would kind of go flying and bowling ball or bowling pin into each other, and he was sort of just floating through some people in the footage they even showed of this, and it's in September that it's coming out, so that looked weird. But the other strange thing about it is that it's in real time. The game takes place, not real time, it's sped up from, but you've got 72 hours before like a helicopter arrives or whatever, and you've got certain things to do within the progressing time frame that doesn't stop during the game.
Right.
So there are survivors around the shopping center who you won't be able to save all of them. You've got to pick and choose because time will run out. Any of them can sort of die, and you fail bits along the way, and if you don't do a certain amount of things, that at the end of the 72 hours, the helicopter doesn't come or whatever. And then there's some other bits and pieces, but that sort of stuff, they've added some auto saving to this, which will help because you had to like go to a specific place and save, and it was all very designed in a way where, you know, those games where it feels like it's a bit against you.
Yeah.
It had that vibe, but they're softening some of that, I suppose, or quality of life improvements to that. But it felt weird at the time for how much it was like, I guess punishing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess people are maybe a little more accustomed to or able to enjoy that sort of thing more, where it does function similarly to some of the Souls games and whatever, where there are quests in that you can't quite tell where they are.
Right.
You can definitely fail them, and
Yeah.
it's sort of similar to that a bit.
A bit like in Pikmin, you have to get used to, you know, you start and you've got your 10 guys, and then two of them get wiped out in a encounter, and you just really have to get used to the idea of no, I'll end up with hundreds of these guys. They are kind of expendable.
Yeah.
And it is also meant to feel bad when you, like you are meant, but
exactly.
That's
it's
part
inevitable.
of the challenge. Yeah.
The feeling of pressure is stronger than the actual amount of pressure on you too.
Yeah, because most games are designed in a way where you can go through and do and execute everything perfectly on a run if you want to, if that's the kind of play style that you have, or that's the kind of like platinum thing that you... So the idea that like you are going to... That's why I struggled with RPGs for a long time with turn-based stuff, was like the notion of like you just are going to get hit by some of these attacks. There's nothing you can do to block it. It feels like you've lost, even though it's like, no, this is meant to happen.
Fire Emblem and stuff like that, which you guys have come to love.
Yeah.
That's a similar thing with the permadeath mode and all of that. So it's cool. It's just like it's designed around being replayed and around being experimented with, which is a time commitment. But whatever, people will know whether or not they want to engage with that or not. It's just it'll be interesting to see how a game that felt odd at the time and is now almost 20 years old feels remastered.
And there were sequels, right? There
a couple. 2 was quite similar. 3 changed it into a lot more of a normal open world sort of zombie game, and then 4 people did not like when it sort of ran off the rails a bit.
I kind of get the feeling, if I had to guess, that this will come and go. I don't think there'll be a lot of... It's not going to make a big splash. Some people might be like, they didn't do as good a job at making this accessible as they could have, and then... it's not going to spark a renewed interest in the franchise, would be my guess.
I would imagine that's sort of what they're dipping the toe in the water about too. But like, also, I don't think the updated graphics look great artistically compared to the first. Like, obviously, the things will need to look different if you are making them look more modern, and I don't think they've nailed it art-wise for me, just from the trailer. But
like, obviously they have taken old games and old franchises and rejuvenated them. That's not something Capcom can't do. But
no, and this could very well be decent. It's just such an odd game. I'm very interested to see, because I think it's super interesting, and I enjoyed playing it in 2018 or whenever it was I ended up playing it. So
I played it after it was cool.
I played it when everyone thought I was really lame for playing it.
Why is there... This is a genuine question. Is there a reason why they have not done anything with Mega Man for such a long time?
I don't know.
Do they not have the rights? Because like
they've got them. They've done those re-release packages with a bunch of them.
Yeah, that's true. Because just when they're going back into the archives and giving the full remaster treatment to something like Dead Rising, not that I think they should remaster the original Mega Mans,
right?
Although that would be cool, but like. I feel like that's such like an iconic character, and he still has resonance, and especially for our generation, like that was one of like the big kind of like de facto mascots of that era of gaming. Yeah, it's crazy to me that they haven't tried to do anything new with him in such a long time.
Well, because they did 9 and 10, which were the like very early on retro throwback type games. Early on when people were doing that as a common thing. Like 9 was one of the like, oh, what, this game looks like an NES game now? That's
great.
So
but is it the case that the original sort of director is no longer working for
Didn't
Sega?
he?
Maybe so, for Capcom.
Capcom, sorry.
He's gone. Didn't he have that game that he crowdfunded and then it was quite... It was
Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, and it was pretty bad.
People didn't like it. I don't think they played it. Well, and because, they've done a lot of those. There was one this year, I think, the like Game Boy Advance sort of RPG Mega Man games. I forget what they're called off the top of my head, but...
Oh, yeah. There's like 10 of them.
There's a million fucking
Mega Man Legends,
games.
I think they're called.
No, Legends is the PS1 one that people... loved and they've not done anything with really.
See, that or like that and or like just a 3D version of it,
or there's just like we've seen a lot of action Metroidvanias, like just kind of do a new Mega Man game that is in line with that sort of lineage.
Maybe so.
It is weird. I
Capcom
feel
as
like
a whole aren't afraid to shake up their stuff, and there have been whispers at the last few presentation things we've gotten that like, Mega Man maybe for some reason. So Capcom are doing like all of the Marvel versus Capcom games, that package soon.
Yep.
They are aware of and put out their old stuff in, I think, a better format than a lot of people do, where it's just like, here are all the games, it's in a package, it's not crazy price, and you get a ton of them in the one thing.
Yeah, and there's like concept art and all that kind of stuff. But even with like the last Street Fighter game, they had that open world thing where you're like interacting with these iconic characters from the back in the day. So they do such a good job of like sort of nostalgia baiting, but also updating it enough to be, I kind of feel like they walk the line really nicely of like, hey, you get to make a little guy that looks like you if you want, and then you're going in and you're broing down with Ryu. Isn't that cool? But it doesn't feel like an egregious like, pandering in a nostalgia sense. It's just like, hey, this is a cool way to like recontextualize these characters that have been around for like 30 years.
I wonder if they have, I would assume that they have some measurement for how much they think the Mega Man name penetrates a modern audience.
Yeah.
And they mustn't.
Like, it's crazy to get around to Dead Rising remake before you get around to Mega Man. Mega Man.
I guess if like they probably care more about the Mega Man brand. You know, it's like, well, we're not just going to remaster.
Maybe so.
If we're going to do something, it'll be a proper game, a AAA game that we think,
I think we see something one day.
Yeah, they could be. I mean, maybe it is just a thing where internally they're working on it and it's taken them a while to get it right.
Yeah. If the original sort of director couldn't do it again, then maybe it's harder than, action games are hard to make.
Yeah.
So are all games. But I'm interested to see these like the Dead Rising remaster. I doubt I will play just because I had my fill of that game, but I'm very interested to see the response. New Resident
6
Evil
years ago
absolutely gets new Resident Evil. I'm interested in new Crazy Taxi. Sounds like they're putting the crazy into Crazy Taxi. I mean,
well, because Capcom, look, they might not be going and revisiting Mega Man, but what they are doing is they got a new IP. They got a whole new world that they're ready to drop on us called Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess, which was included in this presentation. And they dropped a demo. It's out. The full game's out next week. They dropped a demo and they also announced that there's going to be an Okami collaboration in it. I think just like some themed items and stuff, because it stylistically is quite similar to that game.
Yeah, I saw they dropped this demo, and so I did the responsible thing. I took it into the police station, but nobody claimed it, so now I have the demo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And
finders keepers.
Losers, weepers. I think that's it.
Yeah. Loser sweepers. Fuck those janitors.
They sweep up a lot of the drop stuff and it gets lost. That's what it means.
Yeah.
This game, A, will be on Game Pass, which is cool.
Yep.
B, is a hell of a lot of fun. I really like
it. Fuck, it's good.
Yeah, I'm really into it.
I think when they announced it, we all thought it looked cool, even though we didn't really know too much about what it was.
Thought it was a completely different type of game.
Yeah, then they showed it off again more recently, and we were all like, this looks different to what we thought it was like a year ago.
Yeah.
But I was like, I still don't really know what this is. I was thinking it was maybe like a kind of Devil May Cry-ish, like action combat-y kind of thing. What it is, and the demo is just like a kind of... It's not the beginning of the game. It doesn't carry over. It's like a slice of it.
Very early though. You'd have to because like it's pretty easy. There's a couple of levels, like a boss fight, and then a third, further along seeming level.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you any like opening. It just drops you in. It doesn't give you really. You intuit it, but it doesn't.
Does it tell you the controls?
It does. It will. It has some stuff pop up.
It tutorializes you a bit in it. So basically, you're in an area. It's like this.
What are you?
You're a guy with a sword. There's a lady who is doing some spells.
Is she the goddess?
She's the goddess.
Oh, she is. Okay. Well, you're getting her path ready for her.
So Japan's been taken over by this demon. You go into these villages that have been like corrupted by this like essentially virus. The villages are kind of like bound in these like pod things. And there's a path from like a torii gate at the start to one at the end. And so you're going around the village, you're getting these villagers out of their pods. Every time you break one of these, you get a number of crystals, and you're using the crystals to both cut a path through the village from one torii gate to the next to guide the goddess through it. You're also using those crystals to assign jobs to the villagers.
Oh.
And
So,
there's
like-
a day-night cycle, and once it hits night, the gate at the end of the village will open and demons come out, and that's where you get the bulk of your crystals, is by fighting these demons, making sure that they don't get to the goddess and harm her.
Right.
So then that cycle ends. You've now got like way more crystals, which you can use to either assign more roles to the villagers, assign them better roles, or finish off the path to the end gate. And then you've cleared the level once you've like cut a path for her to get to.
Yeah.
So you've got that balance of during the day, you're going around making sure you've found where all the villagers are and setting them free, doing your little like assigning them their roles, assigning them their positions. You can like, you know, you get to choose where they all kind of sit in the village.
And what are they doing?
So it's like a tower defense game where the goddess is the tower, basically.
Right.
Yep.
And the roles you're assigning them are stuff like a woodcutter, which will mean they have an axe that they can chop the enemies with. An archer, like this magic one that can sort of slow them down. Also, in some of the levels, there'll be like a wall or a little defense thing that you can get them to set up during the day and work on. And then, at night, depending on if they've got some sort of combat task there, they will help you stop this, in the demo, quite easy series of enemies spilling out of it. But obviously it will progress over time. So in the demo, there's like some just regular sort of peons or whatever, some foot soldiers who come
Some
out.
peasants.
Some absolute salt of the earth type demons who are
Some absolute fucking mugs.
It's got that really cool, like old mythological Japanese, like
looks great.
ghouls and yokai kind of
Nice.
stuff in that like real sort of Torii gates and that like it really feels like a kind of game where if it had come out in like 2001, it just would not have released in the West because it's so tied into Japanese mythology that like anyone in the West would have looked at it and gone, no one here is going to fucking understand what this is.
Or it might have come out like a togi or whatever and been like a sleeper hit type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's like the look of it is really good artistically. It's not like super high fidelity, big budget, whatever type of looking game.
Yeah, because it's kind of not isometric, but it is kind of a
It's top-down
zoomed out, like
thing.
top down. So it's not the like right up close.
But so you're this sword guy who you can also chop through them with some fairly simple attacks. You also get some little badges type things that you can earn over time, which will give you a different attack on R2 or a different skill that you get one that is like just doing a big lot of damage to everyone around you and brings down this other meter, which is like a guard meter that they have to blah, blah, blah.
It seems like quite a lot of customization because even just in this demo, you find so many of these little badges essentially that are all like, one of them is like, it increases the speed of all the villagers, or it increases their heal rate, or like, I think I ended up getting like 6 of them or something across the like 3 levels that were all like such different effects that like it seems like it'll really lend itself to a very like customizable play style. Like
there are different challenges for each level too. You can replay the levels where if you do the whole level without taking damage or whatever, you'll get different bonuses. And if you clear out all of the corruption pod things in a level, it'll unlock a little safe basically that'll give you another item. You can customize that stuff afterwards, like you said, and do these pretty simple attacks where it's just like square does one thing, square triangle does another, square triangle does another, and then 3 squares and a triangle do another.
Okay.
To like get the different types of enemies, which there's like a soldier one who launches stuff. There are some flying ones that are easier to get with the like square triangle attack will launch you into the air, but then your archers can take them down. And then there's one boss level where there's like a big thing that comes out that you can kind of command your soldiers a little more directly to like all attack at once or everyone run back to the goddess and defend her. You got to take that thing down.
It felt a bit like Pikmin to me in terms of
little.
like the time management, and you've got this like you're constantly watching this cycle and having to like get all your stuff in order before the day ends. But a version of Pikmin where you're way more hands-on in the combat. And like I don't hate the combat in Pikmin, doesn't ruin it for me, but it's definitely my least favorite part. Like it's a little like feels at odds to me with like what is the most fun about the Pikmin games, whereas this is like it's a bit more front and center, and
Right.
like it feels like it's been designed a bit more around like the combat is simple, but it felt fun. Like it wasn't. It's kind of a chore in Pikmin. You feel like you
Right.
don't quite have the tools to do the job, whereas this is like you're front and center, and you have actual attacks that you can do that feel satisfying when they connect, and you get your big special thing which does a lot of damage. So you do feel like. Yeah, you do feel like you're actually doing something and that it is like responsive and fun.
Because as the like Torii Gate where all the enemies come out of opens, there's like a little patch in front of it that you'll take damage on if you stand on it, and they like glow red as they come through and won't take damage for a little bit. So even with that though, most of these levels, I was hanging right outside.
Me too.
There, absolutely chopping everyone up, and then had like a wall of people behind who were dealing with dregs.
I couldn't really see the point to spreading myself out too much in these opening levels.
I'm assuming as you go through, there are multiple gates, and you'll have to manage more. Because if you press R1, it freezes, and you get an overhead view.
A little tactical view.
You assign all your different people, the places they go. You have to actually physically run up to them to heal them or to change their jobs.
Yep.
So you can't just do full like RTS thing, but you get like rations that get dropped from different parts of the world that you might.
Little animals are running around, and if you smash them with your sword, they'll drop.
Because they're corrupted, and then you heal their corruption by attacking them.
Oh, yeah.
Which has always been how I've lived my life. If someone seems to have something going wrong, attack them. And then they'll obviously get fixed.
That's right.
No, they'll heal you. It heals you to attack them. But it's cool. Like the environments are like you get in and there's all these like black like twisted vines, and like the whole like corruption thing is really visceral, and then when you finish the level you see all of that kind of like melt away, and it's like people kind of come out of a trance and then they go back to like just living their lives and like taking water from the well or whatever.
It's all nice there. There's birds chirping again after you've fixed it. Different paths to go down to think about. As the game progresses, I assume the difficulty will get to the point where you have to think about these different funnels that enemies could go down.
Yeah, that was my one. I was really impressed by this demo. I didn't know what to expect. Capcom have been, hitting enough for me lately that I was like, I'm definitely going to give this a go. But I was really, really hooked into it like pretty quickly and really keen to play the full game now. But yeah, my one query is like, I wonder, I hope there's like enough variety in the full like game to keep. Yeah, I hope it shifts and expands enough because. Yeah, that's the one. I could see that being an issue if it's just a bit too samey across the whole game.
It was pretty straightforward what they've given us here, but also it literally is like some of the controls just have question marks, and as you go through, it'll tell you this is what L2 does. We'll let you know now. So like it's the tutorial stage.
You can see even in just like the thing, like I said, you find so many of the little badge things just across this demo, which points to it being like a very I imagine later levels you're getting swarms of the enemies and you potentially multiple gates where they're spawning out of as well, I would hope.
You get the one sort of extra level in the demo that it even goes like, thanks for playing, and then it's like, by the way, you got this one. That is like a little more how you going.
Yeah.
But
but great design.
I think the UI is a little confusing was like the one thing I sort of obviously I'm learning it as I go, but all the sort of health bars are like stylized as these sort of
like kind of scroll
things. And some of the enemy sort of bars they look good design wise on a page, but I found like again, as I'm learning it, it was just a little bit unclear sometimes.
It felt like it was maybe just this demo was missing the bit of the tutorial too, where it's like, hey, this bar here, that's what that is. Like it's telling you, you need crystals to do this, but there's like certain stuff on the screen. And even when you go into the little role assign menu, I was like scrolling through my people being like, which ones don't have jobs yet? Which ones have I given? Like it's kind of a bit visually hard to tell, but again it's kind of
as you sink into it you will
it's going for something design wise that that is hoping that you come to grips with it, and rather than sacrifice a sort of aesthetic style to be a bit more clear. Immediate.
I think it's positive as well that I want there to be enough in this game that it makes me use all of this stuff, and that I'm playing it for long enough that I'm just second nature with all of that by the time. Because, I was really into it and really hope that it hits the level of, I guess, challenge that will make it super engaging, because I think it could be.
Yeah,
right.
It's
Seems
cool.
very
It's
cool.
Really unique, really cool, great style. And yeah, I mean, Capcom are such a legacy company where, like, for a while now, all they've really needed to do is just bring out new iterations of their existing franchises, or even just like go back and remake the best
They don't even
entries of
need to do it with Mega Man, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah. And so for them to go like, yeah, here's a completely new, not just like a new like world, but a like pretty, even though it is like essentially a tower defense
with a bit of Pikmin, with
real-time
a bit of,
strategy, but it is, but it's a bit more, it's a bit of everything, and it's kind of like a bit more. It feels so far it has a potential to be like way more than just the sum of its parts.
It's got its own unique thing going on that, I really hope it delivers on, because I liked what was there. But if the whole thing stayed at that level, it would be boring.
Yeah,
But it. I have no reason to assume that that's going to be the case, and like,
unless you are really pessimistic.
Hey, that ain't me. And
you always look on the bright side of life. That's what I say.
Everyone always assumes I'm a pessimist. That's such a negative view.
Because you could say the same thing about Monster Hunter. You go to an area, there's a big monster there, you just take it down. If that's all it was for
every
the whole game
needs
like,
to ramp up.
Yeah.
So. I understand it. It's out on everything by the Switch, so it's out on like the PS4 and 5 and the Xbox One, I think.
Oh yeah,
and it's on Game Pass.
Yep,
and
I played it on
Windows
Steam on the PC.
I'm really, and it's out this month.
It's out next week.
Next week.
It's out either Thursday.
That
or
is this
Friday.
month.
I think it's like the 19th.
Yeah.
So
Friday,
the week after.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Sorry, dude. I've got a few calendars to my name.
Well,
so.
can you tell me when Dwarf Fortress came out?
Ooh, 2000. I want to say like 5.
I believe it was 2003.
Wow.
But it came out on consoles. Or no, it came out like as a full release much more recently.
Yeah, the like ASCII art version of Dwarf Fortress was, by the way, Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess was the last one, just to say the name again, because it's an easy one to forget. Dwarf Fortress, was ASCII
right, it was a text-based game.
And it was like, I think it's 2 people or something sort of developed it over the time, and it's this real passion project, crazy thing that I've gone in and looked at several times over the years, the like weird version. I've always heard so much stuff about the people who love it.
Well, so Dwarf Fortress, if you don't know, and it's not a massive game, like it's not a huge, broken through to the general populace.
I guess so.
It is a city builder.
It's like a simulation game.
Yeah, it is. It's sim world kind of.
Yeah, it's like sim fantasy world.
Yeah, it's progressive, or what's the word? Procedurally generated. And that is also a big part of it, is that you can choose your parameters and then generate a world, and you can have a bunch of different worlds going on in a bunch of different games.
Right.
But it will generate this world based on, the parameters you set, or you can just leave it at default. It will also then give you like a history. So it procedurally generates like characters and races and like goblins
cities and countries
cities and cataclysmic events, and you will get to scroll through all of that, and then it'll be like, also now you're a bunch of little dwarfs and you can pick a place on the map to settle. Away you go.
And this is like classic fantasy mining in a mountain style.
Yes.
And the way people have always described this game when they love it is that it is a like lore creation game.
Yeah.
It is a way of simulating building this whole world that you feel participation and ownership in, that has this like complex history. And it's every time I've tried it from that older version that they've been updating since, for more than 20 years, I guess, it's been so off-putting, so difficult to get into, so confusing, and
talk about an overwhelming interface. Like,
dude, it's bizarre. Like, I'm not able to form an attachment to an @ symbol and go like, that's the king. It's
at king.
It hasn't worked for me. But this more recent updated sort of release version that they put out has different UI and all of that, right?
It's a graphics version. Yeah.
Okay.
It has like, 8-bit graphics, pixel art. It's still very simplistic, but it has visualized it in a way that you can see characters, you can see, because also this version, your mouse and keyboard graphics version, when you scroll with the mouse, it changes the elevation that you're at. So basically, and it's there's not really just like ground level, because there's often mountains and there's often a lot of mining and a lot of deep sort of exploration that happens. But you sort of, let's say we're at sea level, you're on a big land mass. You don't control the individual characters. You start off with like 10 or so dwarves, and like,
just to check as well. Sorry, before we go further, this is your first time, and this is obviously the most recent version.
Yes,
that you started playing.
This is the Steam version, graphics version. Never played it before.
Okay,
had heard about it. Had heard basically the stuff that you had described, Nox, but was also like, I don't think that sounds like a game. It sounds like an experiment or something, or I kind of thought maybe it was like a clicker game, where it was more very passive.
Sure.
But it's not. It's active in a city builder, Sim City sort of way, where you're given these bunch of people. Again, this is all just generated from this massive back catalog of names and words and character types and stuff. But even if you do just like pause the game at the start, each character has a full sort of history. You see every thought and action that they've done sort of in their like back catalog of like, oh, this guy had an argument with me today and now I'm sad, or like, oh, I got caught in the rain and now I'm angry.
This is fucking NSA shit, man. You shouldn't have access to this.
Thought police. But they have also a role or a occupation that they are predisposed towards. So like at the very start, you have like a wagon of supplies and a bunch of people and like a bunch of pets and animals and shit. And it's basically, they do give you a tutorial and they basically teach you how to like mine down to the lower level. You build some stairs from the current elevation to the next one down. Then you can just mine space to, open up underground. You can have little supply depots. You can cut down trees. And if you go a bit deeper, you can mine rocks and get, rocks as a resource. And it sort of starts, as like kind of like an RTS game or a city building game where it's like, build a bedroom.
Yeah.
Build some beds. To do that, you need wood. So cut down a tree. Then build a carpenter workshop so the carpenter can convert wood into beds. Put the beds in the room. Assign... there's something kind of like it was in
Ben,
City
Adam,
Skylines.
and I have built a house with our bare hands before. Okay, you don't have to explain this to us.
Please,
we get it.
I don't need you to carpenter-splain how to do manual labor.
I've been Goldilocks before. I know about beds.
You think
make
these
some
hands
porridge.
are this soft because I've not built anything with them? They get softer the more you build.
That's
Everyone
right.
knows it.
That's right, like marshmallows.
They get bashed up and chunky from the work.
In City Skylines, and I think SimCity maybe as well, you designate like zones.
Yeah.
So like in this, you'll build a bedroom and then you'll go, that's the bedroom zone. So your characters know to go sleep there.
Yeah, that's the zone where the magic happens.
And then you'll make a little dining space and allocate that as like dining room. And then you'll build like tables and chairs and shit in there. So you're like, it's very granular to start with. And I guess it is overall, like the whole game is very granular. That's the point.
And you can go in and out as much as you sort of choose to.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Well, we just built a bedroom.
Speaking of where the magic happens.
We're in the zone.
Thought we'd already built the workbench.
It obviously expands greatly from this.
Yeah.
You begin with this small group of dwarves, but then, hey, you build a bedroom. I'm gonna
Is that
There's going to be
make
more
use of it. Yeah.
Well,
is
you
that
gotta
the
build
pitter patter of little feet I hear?
Yes.
If you want them to, surely you have to build a kitchen sink if you want them to breed, right?
Yeah.
What are they going to bend one another over?
Yes, big sofa.
The little thought things for each of them being like, I'm spelling the alphabet with my.
Well, a lot of mine at this point would be they would be thinking, I'm in a group dormitory.
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah, nothing ever happens in those.
Yeah.
I like to go down there.
I'm in a backpackers.
I like to go down there and draw a big penis in ASCII art with my tongue. Slash.
Yes.
Slash.
But But I guess the point is that your tribe will expand and you will dig deeper and more broadly. And, you know, there's like, okay, if I'm in an area with water, you can build like, or you can like dig a trench so the water comes closer to your settlement, or you can build a well, or you can set up a water wheel, and then you can build stuff like, and there's all this shit that I haven't touched yet of like cogs and fucking machinery and stuff where, yeah, you can build this living, breathing and self-sustaining city / world, and it just all connects and it all expands and it's as infinite as you want it to be. It is very overwhelming though.
Yeah.
Like I've been playing a lot of Crusader Kings, which I played a bunch of years ago when it came out, and that to me was like, oh, this is so granular. You can organize your children to go and stay with another king who's going to teach them this specific thing because that's their, you know, they have skills in that, and you can make alliances and you can invade countries, and like it's so complex and deep. But this is like, also you can click on a specific guy and be like, oh, he wants to become a fisherman. So I'm going to build a fishery, and then I'm going to select fishery, add worker, add that guy, and then add a task of catch a fish and make that an infinite task, and then add a task of clean fish. You know, like it's just...
God really does have his chosen favorites.
Oh, yeah. But it is so in depth. And it's not so much like as in depth as you want it to be. It's just really in depth, and you have to engage with it on that level.
Right.
You
so
know,
if you leave the fisherman to do whatever, will or the guy wants to be a fisherman, will people figure out in your community how to build a fishery and do it themselves at all? Or you're really having a sort of direct traffic?
You've got to do it. You've got like a building menu, and you've got like every time, I assume, I am very early on, and if people have played this and want to like, you know, email in and let me know some tips.
I think people have like 20-year long sort of Dwarf Fortress things that they've been doing. Like it's a long-term game.
Yes. But there is like a build menu, and it is all the buildings and all the little things that you can build. You have to go in and choose them and build them. And then, like I said, you have to assign the worker to the right thing and give them tasks to do. So I don't, like once you've done it once, I think you can automate it. But then you can't, like if you want to build another one, then you got to go and do it yourself and assign new tasks and all of that shit.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot, is basically. And I don't know that it doesn't seem to have any direction either. There's not really a story. There's not an overarching, like there are goals in the tutorial of like, do this, do this, do this. So now that you know how to do them. But I don't think, and I'm pretty sure there isn't like a campaign or a checklist even, because the point of it is that it's incredibly open and infinitely variable, and it's up to you what you do.
And it's sort of like I don't know if this is a good comparison, but like a Minecraft or something in that way. Where part of the point of it is like, go ahead and make your own fun.
Yes. It is like not grown-up Minecraft, but it is a different form of Minecraft.
It's spreadsheet Minecraft.
Pretty much.
It's,
Well, I guess
time Minecraft.
That is grown-up Minecraft.
Yeah. Excel Minecraft.
Yeah. And I guess you're right. Like the fact that it used to be a text-based like ASCII art game. It's like, it's not... You have to care about the numbers. You know, you have to care about the specifics of it, because
you got to be a stats freak.
Yeah.
But then over time, if you're like, damn, I can see where this thing led now to the situation we're in.
Yeah.
Generations down the line, I bet that's satisfying if you manage, or if it appeals to you.
And if you like literally start from like 10 dwarves and a broken down wagon, and then a month after you've played this game consistently,
you got 10 broken down wagons.
That's right, and no dwarves. But you've got like a mountain that is like has a society that's thriving, and it is like 10 levels deep, and it's all working in concert with each other. That would be very satisfying.
Do you feel like the visuals being more visual?
Yes.
Having not played the sort of basic one.
Yeah.
Basic as in the code as well. Like it do you think that has made it more appealing or easier to get into?
Yeah.
Or can you see the...
No, I think that, having a visual representation of it takes it from being something that theoretically I might have been interested in but wouldn't try, to something that I am enjoying at least dipping my toe into.
Cool.
So, I don't know, and I'll keep playing it. I'll keep giving it a crack. And if
I'm
people have
interested
tips...
to see if in 10 years you're like... the great dwarf house of Cthumbia has died today. I'm not going to be able to pod, boys. I'm pretty sad about it.
So I have been playing a lot of Crusader Kings, and like that, I love the continuation. You're like literally, you're playing 7, 8, 9, 10 generations of this family, and each time you're like, so you're playing as a king, and you have like 3 children, and you decide that this child is your heir, and you teach him this, and this, and then eventually the king you're playing as dies, and the heir takes over, and now you are that character. It's very satisfying, and it's funny to see like, oh, but he turned out he had these like, you know, a couple of emergent events during his childhood where he was like betrayed by a friend, so now he's an untrustworthy character, and it's harder for you to like make alliances. You know, like that stuff is cool to see that level of interactivity and sort of real custom stuff having an impact on the game.
Yeah, and that's again what people have always said about Dwarf Fortress is like the actual game is that it's a custom Game of Thrones series creator type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, So fascinating.
Yeah. I wonder if I had played it 20 years ago, I'd be a 20 years deep dwarf freak.
It does seem like, way bigger barrier to entry with that original, but like, once you're in, you're seeing all that stuff that's now just graphically represented anyway.
Yeah. Because people have made sort of, you know, big PDFs of what to do and how to play it, but that's sort of stuff always, that's part of why, you know, mercifully I've never gotten into stuff like League of Legends is because it has that similar style of barrier to entry of having to learn it in a way that doesn't appeal to me, but it sounds like that's what they've sort of focused on smoothing out with this version of it.
I think they get you to a point in the tutorial where it's like, okay, if you're going to be into this kind of game, then you've been introduced, you know, as well as we possibly can.
Wow. Dwarf Fortress, huh?
I guess, the goal is to make a fortress for dwarves.
Well, a game for grown-ups who love spreadsheets. Tommy, you must have played something similar, huh?
I have played an old game that got a recent graphical upgrade.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Is it for like adults or babies?
Absolutely zero barrier to entry on this one.
Oh, okay. You can just stroll on in.
You can just waltz on in.
No bouncers at the door.
Yeah.
No games are for babies. All games are for anyone.
What about...
Well, I wouldn't say this one's for babies because it's spooky.
I've never heard someone stutter on the P.
On the P, yeah.
I thought I was fine, but then I got more scared as I started saying how spooky it was. It reminded me of it. It's spooky.
It's spooky. No, it's cold too, so I'm like, my teeth are chattering.
Yep.
I've been playing Luigi's Mansion 2 HD.
Luigi.
The year this came out during the Year of Luigi, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that Nintendo is still the ones carrying the like HD means recent barrier where like, you know, HD is like 2009. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, they are more than anyone all over the place with how they brand their remasters
They're
and
all
remakes.
different.
This one just being HD. The Paper Mario re-release recently was just had no suffix on it.
Just 2024 in the in the description.
Metroid Prime was Metroid Prime remastered. Like the distinction between HD and remastered is I don't know, but this is, I mean, to be fair, this is a 3DS game, so it is a pretty...
It is literally an HD version of it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you were looking at it on a little screen with very, like, jagged kind of edges. And so I played this back in the day. I really, really loved it on the 3DS. I had never played the original. I still haven't played the original.
It's so good.
Really? Number one?
Luigi's Mansion 1, it's great.
Yeah,
I've
got
it.
it.
GameCube?
Yeah.
And I think they put out a 3DS version of it too.
I've got it on the 3DS, and I think I'll do this and then I'll go back.
Right.
So yeah, this is, you know, it's pretty clear what this is a real just like filling out the last dying months of the Switch.
Yep.
Got to put something in there. I do kind of wish that this had been a bit more in line with like what they did with Pikmin, just chuck 1 and 2 up as digital only releases.
Right.
To be fair, they have done. They've had to do a fair bit to this to bring it. They've had to do more than what you would need to do for like a Wii game or a GameCube game to bring it
'cause-
over, like the dual screen nature of it.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
I do remember, like I loved it on the 3DS. I especially liked the 3D of it.
Right.
It was a game that worked really well with that effect because all of the environments that you're in are pretty much just these like single rooms. So
Yeah.
that effect of it being like a little diorama that you were looking in was really cool. I felt like it was probably the game, like this and Mario 3D Land were probably the game. Like 3D Land had bits gameplay wise where you actually needed the 3D. They were like kind of like optical illusions. This doesn't have any of that, but it just
looked
stylistically it worked really well for the effect.
A Link Between Worlds was
Yes.
cool too because
Yes.
that had some dungeons that would like be vertical.
Oh, right.
And you could see the floor below. Through,
And the
like, some
top-down thing
grates
is really
and-
cool too. Like
Yeah.
you're looking in on this little world.
When they went for it, it was cool. The 3D stuff. Yeah.
But by the end of it, they stopped even putting the effect
because
into the
they
games.
put the 2DS out and
Yeah.
they all needed to work
Right.
on that as well,
Yeah.
so you kind of couldn't have to require it unless for maybe a few instances like with like Super Mario Party needs the Joy-Cons.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not every Switch has them. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
that's
I
besides
mean,
the
I
point.
still every now and then when I get the 3DS out, I'm like, this is a cool effect that like the first thing that was like 3D that you didn't need glasses for. Although I was playing something on it and I went to show it to Laura and I was like, check this out, isn't this cool? And she was like, get that away from me. Some people just like, the 3D thing just like fucks with their eyes.
Well, you showed
like,
the film of the train pulling into the station, and she thought that
that's it.
she was going to get run over. She's not
It's
the
a small
best.
train, but it could still get me. It would cause injury.
It's really coming out at you.
Yeah, that was a great pack-in for the 3DS. The like Astro's Playroom of it where you turn it on and it's Mario's train just coming out of the screen at you. But so yeah, this is... They've cleaned the graphics up a lot. It still is not in line with Luigi's Mansion 3.
Right.
Graphically or in any way, really. That is the weird thing about this coming out now and it being a full price thing and it being a proper release. I feel like they would have gotten a lot more leeway. I really like the thing of being able to like... That's what's annoying about Just 2 coming out. Like, I like the thing of being able to have the cleanliness of having like the whole franchise. Like Pikmin is like... All of them are on the Switch now if you want them in some form or another.
Dude, two coming out before if they do one as well. Like, it is weird.
Yeah.
It is very
I kind of...
Going backwards.
Yeah.
Gradually taking away features.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one is... It really is a handheld game. Like, it's very... Part of what was great about 3, and I assume this is the case in 1 too, is that it's very like free flowing. 3 is like you're in just this one big hotel and the floors are kind of like these different biomes, but you're just kind of exploring around and sort of making your way from one area to the next. This is very segmented up. It's like 5 different little mansions that you go to, and even within those mansions, they're divided up into these little missions where you go in and you have one thing to do. And then as soon as you've done that, the little professor guy's on the phone and he like pulls you back into his little base to like give you your score. So it's really more like a Bayonetta-ish kind of thing where it like ranks you after each level. So it's like way more segmented. And it like I would have loved to see a version of this where they really retooled it and you know, I get why they designed it that way because it was on the 3DS, but make it a bit more of like a home console version where it's not so broken up and you just get carte blanche over that you know, whatever mansion you're in to just discover all of it at your own pace.
1 was more like that than 3 even was.
Yeah,
where
right.
It was doing like a Resident Evil riff type of thing, you know, where you're exploring this mansion and then, I'm back here and I've been through this basement, but I've gotten back to this door and now I've got to go blah, blah, blah.
And it kind of a cool thing that it does do from time to time is like when it drops you back into the certain mansion, it's changed. So it's kind of like you need to clear this thing out. So it does kind of like play with it a little bit in a way that you wouldn't be able to do if you were just set loose in it from the get-go.
Right.
So it really does show what it is. But that being said, I just love these games. I just love the formula of exploring these little environments. I think they're so well designed. I love the tone of it. I love the feel of it. I love the mechanic of walking around with your little flashlight, the bulk of the gameplay of what you're doing in this, by the way, is like solving little puzzles, finding keys to different rooms, and then you've got a suite of tools. The main kind of thing that you're doing is finding these ghosts. You're stunning them with a flashlight, and then you've got like you've got your little vacuum that you're using to suck them up, where you're holding the trigger down, and the ghosts are sort of trying to get away from you, and you're pulling the stick in the opposite direction, and they've got like a sort of a health bar above them that like the longer you're kind of pulling them back, you're draining that, and then you're getting upgrades to the thing that you can like stun them and do a big chunk of damage to them. And just that loop of like, you're looking for a key, you go into a room, and then a little door slams shut behind you, and then you've got this little encounter with 5 of them that you got to take these guys out while the other ones are sneaking up behind you and trying to hit you with a frying pan, and you're trying to, manage and maneuver all of that. I just love that gameplay loop. I love the design and the look and the feel of it. I think is great. So I'm fine to like overcome the very segmented bite-sized thing of it. But it is hard to ignore the fact that it just is that 3 is so good. 3 is kind of like Pikmin 4 was. It's like this is the perfect execution of this game. They've really thrown everything at it. They've just done it so well, and so this is still great, and it was great at the time, and it's still fun to play. But if you've just played... also 3 isn't very fresh in my mind, which is helping me as well. Like if you had played 3 last month and then you came to this straight away because you wanted more of it, I feel like you would really notice that it is a significant step down.
Right.
But I am enjoying it more than I expected to. I was a bit like, they're chucking this on there. This is really like dying days of the console. But I did like the original enough to feel like, I'm ready to dip back in, and I liked the series enough to just like want more of this. So if you're in that camp, I think there's enough to recommend. Like I do think it is still a good game that mostly holds up. I think it's just more of like a bit of a missed opportunity that with, obviously they don't have the time or resources or budget to do this, but a complete redoing of this would be really great. But that's just not they're quickly getting stuff out to fill some gaps.
Because I remember at the time I never ended up playing this, but a lot of what you're saying now was the thing as well of like, why did they make these decisions to have this feel like a step down from 1?
Right.
Which I think you should dig out that 3DS and have a go at 1.
I think I will,
It's exactly what you're talking about. Well, I thought 1 was better. 3 was good, but 1 really sucked me in.
Well, 2, the funny thing is like 2, I think in... certainly the US, I don't know what other territories, but it was called Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. It wasn't even called 2.
I think it was here as well.
Right,
called.
which I think is kind of telling that they were... I mean, they'd only made one other one, so they were maybe thinking of this as like a side thing on the handheld. By the time they get to 3, they're using a lot of ideas from this, but then it's a lot more... 3's a lot more like... 1 is just a rickety old mansion. And then 3 sort of has the like different biomes idea of 2, but rather than being different buildings, it's like, this floor is the greenhouse, and this, each area having like its own kind of theme to it. This is an ice world and all that kind of stuff.
I think you'll love 1.
Yeah, This is still it's a good game. Yeah, I'm enjoying playing it. But yeah, I think you probably can. If you liked 3 when it came out and you just want more Luigi's Mansion and you don't have a 3DS, I mean, there's only 3 of them. So, so you are pretty limited. But yeah, man, especially in the early stages of it, that fucking professor, he is on the blower to you. It feels like every minute and a half. Like you're constantly getting called up and sort of like taken at it. And especially when you like early on, you're like, there's a locked door here. Okay, I'll go. And it's like... so tantalizing, kind of like uncovering all these little threads, and then you're just kind of constantly being interrupted when you just want to be let loose on it.
Nintendo are fiends for that sort of thing sometimes too, because Pikmin 4 had that same problem early on of just like, fucking shut up.
Let me go.
I get what this is. You don't need to talk to me all day about what's like the...
It must be really annoying to be interrupted.
I can't believe you do that to me. Even as demonstration.
I think they're like, I think it is a thing
just
where
the length of it, because I think you said the same thing about. I don't remember if you played Pikmin 4, but I think we both talked about it. Of like
in that demo at least.
Oh, I played the start of it.
Yeah, it takes ages.
That's it. I didn't get past the slow going bit.
Once you do, it's a whole brave new world and it's beautiful. But
I think this is kind of the same thing where they assumed that people are coming to this. Like the GameCube hadn't really taken off, the 3DS had, and it's kind of the same with Pikmin 4 having had a big gap since the last one. They're kind of assuming like, well, a lot of people that are playing this one, this is the first time they've ever played it, so we've got to teach them like everything about this format of game.
Luigi's Mansion 1 they put out on the 3DS years after 2 came out. So,
It sounds like also kind of what would have been ideal is that they made Luigi's Mansion 4 and it was building on 3 and it was
maybe on the Switch 2 or whatever that's coming, because like one especially
like I said, I wish they had have done 1 and 2 as like they did with those Pikmin,
especially for the price they are asking. With like,
just dump them both as a digital thing, and then you can make it cheaper because you're not having to factor in the manufacturing and all of that kind of stuff, which obviously you have to charge full price for a game if you're doing that because your overheads are higher.
Well, and you're stacking the year in a way that you might not if you hadn't had to delay your console to release this year. Maybe.
But all of that being said, this is overall like a series that I really like. I really liked this back in the day. I'm into the bit now where it's like opening up a little bit more and taking the reins off, taking the hands off a little bit more. Just the great level design, great characterization. Luigi's getting spooked by literally every single thing that happens. Great character animations. Just a really really greatly designed art direction and just like a really cohesive world, which, if you liked 3 back in the day when it came out and you want a little more, temper your expectations because a lot of the stuff that is in 3 that was really good is not in this, but it is still a really good game.
Fair enough. Well, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon that sounds like we've done an episode.
I think we've done more than an episode.
That's 2.
For being worried about having enough to talk about.
Yeah, we've done almost 1.5 episodes.
Shit.
Filthy Casuals Dark Moon.
Yes. This was made for the handheld, this podcast.
Yeah.
You can do HD mode if you want.
How many people, I'd love to know, listen to this podcast gathered around a
desktop?
a real desktop, like a speaker stack in a living room.
The TV can play a podcast and a song pretty easily.
Yep.
That definitely happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can let us know on patreon.com/filthycasualspod if you want to go over there. Like we were saying at the top, bunch of new stuff over there. We really try to make it fun and like enjoyable place to be.
Yeah, it's
try
more
to make stuff that is fun to listen to.
Yeah, it's not an afterthought. It is as important to us as this main podcast that we do,
Yeah.
and we think like as good and funny and fun to listen to.
Yeah,
So
we really try.
Yeah, we really genuinely do.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time and energy on it.
We've talked a lot about how it would make more sense for that podcast to be the public one.
Yes.
Because movies and TV have a way more broad appeal, but we're committed now to it being our Patreon bonus.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone who's over there. Again, we cannot say it enough because I just cannot ever express enough how much it means to me that people are over there. Patreon.com/filthycasualspod if you want to go have a look.
Yeah.
See if something there appeals to you. Again, means heaps to us and it means heaps to everyone listening. I just feel like saying that lately.
Yeah.
You know, don't take
Practice gratitude.
I do not take it for granted.
Yeah, that's why I said hi to our audience at the start of the episode.
Hey, you guys deserve it. A simple hello.
Yeah.
Fuck, that was a long time ago. All right. Thanks, everyone, for
I gotta
listening.
piss.
It's so
bad.
cold here
Yeah,
as
it's
well. My
freezing.
fucking nose has got an icicle on
Often
it.
at the
Got
end
two
of
more
this, one
things
of
to
us is
do.
like, God, I have to piss. But today it's my turn.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. And as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals,
Hey, it's Filthy Casuals. Let's drive a taxi. That's what it's Krusty the Clown impression.
Nah.
That's what I was doing.
That's funny.
That's Crazy Taxi.